As the sun begins to rise, the pack of wild dogs launches into a life-or-death chase. With flawless coordination and astonishing speed, they create a hunt so intense that the entire savanna seems to hold its breath. This is a story of unity, discipline, and survival instinct at its very highest level. Out on the open savanna, the African wild dog pack locks onto a newborn buffalo calf as its next target. Exploiting the calf's fragility and a fleeting lapse in the mother's guard, they apply relentless pressure, working methodically to isolate the vulnerable young. Though the mother fights back in desperation, the suffocating force of so many coordinated predators gradually overwhelms her defense. It is a harsh reminder of nature's unforgiving law, where a life that has only just begun can be confronted. A pack of 21 wild dogs closes in, relying on sheer numbers and iron discipline to separate the mother buffalo from her calf. Despite the mother's frantic and fearless defense, the pack's relentless wear-down strategy steadily drains the young calf's strength. Amid a cloud of dust, the chase suddenly turns into a fiery close-quarters clash. The lone hyena relies on sheer muscle as its shield, launching furious counterattacks against the wild dog's unpredictable hit-and-run tactics. But the overwhelming force of numbers trapped within the tightening circle of wild dogs, the lone hyena twists and turns, struggling to fend off lightning-fast attacks coming from every direction. Thick clouds of dust blur the scene, but they cannot hide the brutality of snapping jaws tearing at flesh. Realizing the crushing pressure of the pack is slowly draining. The once peaceful waterhole suddenly erupts into chaos as two of the savanna's fiercest forces collide hyenas and wild dogs. Driven by thirst and the lure of an easy meal, the area transforms into a fiery battleground filled with menacing growls and thunderous snapping jaws. While the wild dogs showcase their hit-and-run tactics, the rhinoceros is the armored tank of the savanna, built like a fortress and armed with a razor-sharp horn that radiates raw power, despite its overwhelming strength. Even this giant occasionally draws the attention of a cunning pack of African wild dogs. In these rare encounters, the pack relies on harassment tactics, circling relentlessly, probing for any sign of weakness. Yet a single thunderous charge or a forceful snort from the rhino is often enough. The footage captures a dramatic reversal of roles when the cunning leopard decides to become the hunter instead of the one hiding. Taking advantage of a moment when the wild dogs are busy enjoying their late lunch, the leopard bursts out of the bushes like an arrow, using its terrifying speed and raw power to shock the pack. Caught completely off guard by the sudden aggression of the spotted assassin, the wild dogs scattering. Surrounded by the aggressive pack of wild dogs barking loudly to intimidate it, the leopard quickly relies on its natural climbing ability to escape. In a split second, it bursts upward, and races straight to the top of a towering tree, leaving the large group of frustrated opponents leaping helplessly below. Edge of the woodland, the pack closes in and finally brings the water buck down through seamless coordination and relentless pressure. Rather than ending the struggle immediately, they pace the kill strategically, preserving the resource to sustain the entire pack amid the constant threat of competing predators nearby. Despite fighting to her very last breath, the water buck ultimately succumbs to the The savanna trembles beneath the steps of a true moving fortress, where the rhinoceros displays its thick, armor-like hide and unmatched power. The encounter between this silent giant and a cunning pack of African wild dogs becomes a ruthless test of that razor-sharp horn against Elephants are truly the uncrowned kings of the savanna, possessing both remarkable intelligence and overwhelming physical power. Encounters between them and African wild dogs unfold like a tense symphony of survival, while the pack may rely on bold numbers and harassment. The rhinoceros is the armored tank of the savanna, built like a fortress and armed with a razor-sharp horn that radiates raw power, despite its overwhelming strength. Even this giant occasionally draws the attention of a cunning pack of African wild dogs. In these rare encounters, the pack relies on harassment tactics, circling relentlessly, probing for any sign of weakness. Yet a single thunderous charge or a forceful snort from the rhino is often enough to The footage captures a dramatic reversal of roles when the cunning leopard decides to become the hunter instead of the one hiding. Taking advantage of a moment when the wild dogs are busy enjoying their late lunch, the leopard bursts out of the bushes like an arrow, using its terrifying speed and raw power to shock the pack. Caught completely off guard by the sudden aggression of the spotted assassin, the wild dogs scatter in confusion. Abandoning the prey they had just hunted, they rush after the leopard, but the clever predator has already leapt up into the safety of it. Fierce circle of wild dogs closing in. The leopard doesn't choose to fight to the death, but instead displays its masterful escape skills. With one powerful surge of its body, it shoots straight up the vertical trunk of a tree, leaving behind the desperate barking and the pack's helpless leaps below. Open plains of the Okavango, a leopard has just taken down its prey when it suddenly finds itself facing a pack of aggressive wild dogs. Instead of backing off before the lone predator's power, the dogs move in with perfect coordination. Wildebeest, a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savanna, thanks to its strong survival instinct. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. What follows is a clash between brute strength and relentless strategy. On one side stands a lone powerhouse capable of charging through danger, while on the other is a disciplined pack moving with incredible speed. The African buffalo is a brooding giant capable of smashing through obstacles with its steel-hard horns. Rather than attacking head-on, the dogs use their agility to slip behind, relentlessly biting at the legs and belly to drain the buffalo's strength. On the open plains, a ferocious pack of wild dogs surrounds and savagely tears into a young calf. Though the mother buffalo fights back in desperation, she is powerless against the overwhelming numbers and calculated tactics of her attackers. The wild dogs relentlessly harass and provoke solitary male buffalo. The pack employs a guerrilla-style strategy, constantly circling, barking loudly, and snapping at the rear to wear them down and provoke frustration. In the Moremi Reserve, the pack of wild dogs works in perfect coordination, using precise cutting bites to separate a calf from its mother. Despite the mother's desperate attempts to drive them away, the relentless pressure slowly exhausts the calf until it is finally brought down. At the waterhole, the wild dogs exploit the thick mud to trap and harass a Cape buffalo, closing in with relentless cutting bites. Though the massive animal fights back fiercely, it is gradually worn down by the pack's endurance. Faced with the ferocious charge of the wild dog pack, the massive herd of buffalo suddenly panics and breaks into a full retreat. Despite their overwhelming size, the buffalo choose withdrawal, surrendering the ground to far smaller predators. Open plains of the Okavango, a leopard has just taken down its prey when it suddenly finds itself facing a pack of aggressive wild dogs. Instead of backing off before the lone predator's power, the dogs move in with perfect coordination, using sharp, piercing barks and constant snapping bites to surround and overwhelm their rival. Realizing the numbers are heavily against it, the leopard has no choice but to abandon the fresh kill and retreat up a nearby tree. From high above, it can only watch. Elephants are truly the uncrowned kings of the savannah, possessing both remarkable intelligence and overwhelming physical power. Encounters between them and African wild dogs unfold like a tense symphony of survival. While the pack may rely on bold numbers and harassment tactics to test smaller or vulnerable individuals, the matriarch responds with absolute authority, with ears spread wide and a thunderous the beast, a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savannah, thanks to its strong survival instincts. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. What follows is a clash between brute strength and relentless strategy on one side, with seamless coordination and perfectly timed, strategic bites. The pack of wild dogs ultimately brings the massive wildebeest under complete control. Overwhelmed by their blistering speed and a relentless encirclement that leaves no escape, the giant soon begins to tire. In the end, the powerful grazer collapses, defeated by the brutal efficiency and collective strength of these. With frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a tightening maze of hunters with no escape in sight. By splitting into smaller groups to surround and cut off escape routes with careful calculation, the pack of wild dogs completely neutralizes the prey's advantage in speed. This seamless coordination not only drains the target's strength with ruthless efficiency, but also highlights the overwhelming power of disciplined teamwork against the desperate bursts of a lone. 13. If wild dogs represent discipline and speed, then the hyena stands as the embodiment of brute strength and ruthless cunning. Armed with jaws powerful enough to crush bone, the hyena is the ultimate opportunistic raider, always ready to snatch victory from the hard work of others. When these two Along the edge of the woodland, the pack surrounds and brings down the water buck using its signature pack tactics. Rather than ending it instantly, they maximize every second, feeding quickly to sustain the group under constant pressure from competing predators nearby. Despite its desperate resistance, the antelope ultimately succumbs to the relentless coordination and ruthless efficiency of the savanna's most elite hunters. Hippos are hot-tempered giants armed with jaws that can generate up to 1,800 pounds per square inch of crushing force, powerful enough to snap a small boat in half. Despite their bulky, slow-moving appearance, they become a true force of terror when African wild dogs dare to edge into river territory. In the rare clashes that follow, no matter how intelligent or coordinated the pack may be, they tread carefully around armor-thick skin and explosive aggression. One bone-crushing bite or a single full-body charge is enough for a hippo to shatter the pack's hunting formation, turning some of the savanna's most relentless killers into panicked fugitives in an instant. Along the riverbank, a pack of African wild dogs boldly surrounds a hippo, setting the stage for a tense standoff between relentless hunters and a hot-tempered giant. Even when outnumbered, the hippo stands its ground with commanding presence, wielding a 1,000-pound bite and hide thick enough to seem untouchable, ready to crush anything that dares invade its territory. Amid echoing barks and cautious probing snaps, the hippo looms like a living fortress, forcing even the blood-driven pack to think twice before risking a reckless attack. In the river, a massive hippo suddenly intervenes, driving the wild dogs away and forcing the young impala toward the bank. Yet this apparent rescue is nothing more than a fierce display of territorial defense. The outcome remains brutally unforgiving, exhausted, and vulnerable. The young antelope quickly falls back into the waiting jaws of the pack. Along the river's edge unfolds a chaotic and brutal symphony of the wild, where a desperate struggle for survival erupts among four species: wild dogs, hyenas, hippos, and an impala. It begins with a heart-stopping chase by the pack, forcing two impalas to break away. One is torn apart on land by the dog's ruthless coordination and the greedy opportunism of hyenas, while the other bolts into the lake in a last attempt to survive. But safety is an illusion. It plunges into another kind of hell, colliding with a herd of massive hippos fiercely defending their territory. Instead of refuge, the terrified impala faces thunderous, bone-shaking bites from the hippos, trapped in a tragic no-win scenario, raging giants in the water, relentless killers waiting on the shore. Often compared to armored tanks of the wilderness, the rhinoceros stands as a silent giant, embodying immovable strength across the savanna. Though not a traditional target, a rhino may occasionally draw the attention of wild dogs when the pack seeks to test its limits or defend contested territory. This confrontation becomes an extreme contrast: thick, impenetrable hide and a razor-sharp horn set against speed, agility, and relentless encirclement tactics. Can the rhino's raw brute force overpower the endurance and coordination of the pack? Let us watch closely and witness the outcome unfold. Along the desolate forest's edge, a brutal siege unfolds as a clan of hyenas targets an already wounded rhinoceros. Exploiting the giant's vulnerability, the predators persistently tear at its open injuries, methodically draining its remaining strength. Though the rhino fights back in sheer desperation, the tightening ring of ruthless attackers leaves it with almost no chance of survival. At a watering hole in Greater Kruger National Park, a solitary black rhinoceros put on a commanding display of power to defend its territory. Even when confronted by a large and highly coordinated pack of wild dogs, the formidable giant charged repeatedly with fierce determination. Faced with such aggression and the threat of a razor-sharp horn, the pack was ultimately forced into a scattered retreat to ensure its own safety. In the wild heart of South Africa, a rare confrontation erupted when a pack of wild dogs moved too close to a young rhino calf. In an instant, the mother transformed into an enraged armored tank, charging with fierce determination to drive the predators away from her offspring. Even while contending with both the encroaching pack and a nearby adult bull, she maintained clear dominance over the scene, as the calf itself remained remarkably calm. It was a powerful testament to the unbreakable force of maternal instinct in the untamed wilderness. A tense confrontation erupts when a pack of wild dogs inadvertently wanders into a rhinoceros's territory. Though the dogs show no intent to attack, their mere presence provokes the massive herbivore into a defensive fury. With its towering frame and sharpened horn, the rhino launches repeated charges, forcing the agile predators to retreat and maintain a cautious distance. The encounter highlights a dramatic clash between raw muscular power and the swift adaptability of a seasoned hunter. The zebra stands as a symbol of speed, armed with a rear kick, capable of delivering devastating force. When confronted by a pack of wild dogs, it does more than flee. It fights back with fierce determination. Though the dogs rely on relentless pursuit to exhaust their prey, a zebra can force its attackers to retreat with a single well-aimed strike, powerful enough to shatter a jaw. Surrounded by tireless predators, one precise kick may represent its only true chance of survival. Wildebeest, a stubborn giant with a powerful build and razor-sharp horns, is always a formidable challenge on the savanna thanks to its strong survival instincts. Yet even that raw power can be tested when it encounters one of nature's greatest tactical hunters, the African wild dog. What follows is a clash between Along the forest's edge, an aggressive pack of wild dogs charges forward, driving a herd of zebras away from contested ground. Faced with the predator's intensity and coordinated advance, the zebras choose to withdraw, avoiding an unnecessary and dangerous confrontation. It stands as yet another testament to the dominance wild dogs can assert, even over opponents far larger than themselves. Spreading out in formation with frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a tightening maze of hunters with no escape in sight. Turning itself into a living fortress, the antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, despite their frantic attempts to surround and overwhelm, If wild dogs represent discipline and speed, then the hyena stands as the embodiment of brute strength and ruthless cunning, armed with jaws powerful enough to crush bone. The hyena is the ultimate opportunistic raider, always ready to snatch victory from the hard work of others. When these two predators collide, it becomes far more than a fight over a carcass. It's a fiery showdown between agile packs. Out on the open savanna, the African wild dog pack locks onto a newborn buffalo calf as its next target, exploiting the calf's fragility and a fleeting lapse in the mother's guard. They apply relentless pressure, working methodically to isolate the vulnerable young. Though the mother fights back, a pack of 21 wild dogs closes in, relying on sheer numbers and iron discipline to separate the mother buffalo from her calf. Despite the mother's frantic and fearless defense, the pack's relentless wear-down strategy steadily drains the young calf's strength. In the end, the calf collapses under the brutal collective pressure of the coordinated hunters, bringing a tragic Amid a cloud of dust, the chase suddenly turns into a fiery close-quarters clash. The lone hyena relies on sheer muscle as its shield, launching furious counterattacks against the wild dog's unpredictable hit-and-run tactics. But the overwhelming force of numbers quickly tightens the circle, forcing the stubborn fighter to retreat in fear and flee to save. Baboons are cunning gladiators of the wild, armed with razor-sharp canines and a boldness that ranks among the fiercest on the savanna. Yet their individual ferocity is constantly tested against the iron discipline of African wild dogs. What unfolds is a breathless standoff between adaptive intelligence and brutal collective strategy, where survival instincts are pushed to their absolute limits. Spreading out in formation with frightening persistence, the pack of wild dogs relentlessly pursues the antelope, draining its strength along a deadly path of exhaustion. Despite its impressive size and power, the prey ultimately collapses under the relentless layers of pressure, slowly becoming trapped in a turning itself into a living fortress. The antelope unleashes thunderous back kicks and swings its razor-sharp horns to drive away every wave of attack. Against this solid wall of defense, the pack of wild dogs, despite their... The waterbuck stands like a calm giant at the edge of danger, its thick, oil-coated coat allowing it to move confidently through the water. But that calm is often shattered by the piercing calls of African wild dogs, the tireless hunters of the savanna. When the chase begins, instead of exhausting itself on open ground, the waterbuck makes a bold survival choice. It charges straight into the deep marsh. In the water, it uses its towering build to hold its ground, facing off against a pack that hesitates at the thought of hidden predators like crocodiles. What unfolds is a nerve-wracking battle of strategy pack endurance versus the prey's instinct to choose the terrain that gives it the best chance to survive. The first round erupts in dramatic fashion between a fierce pack of wild dogs and a lone female waterbuck. Surrounded on all sides, she remains remarkably composed, using her height and solid build to shield her vulnerable areas. As the pack presses in with relentless pressure and probing bites, she fires back with raw strength, driving them away and breaking their circle. Round one ends in her favor. She successfully defends herself, forcing even the determined pack to pull back from what has become a living fortress in the water. The pack drives the waterbuck down toward the deep dam. Facing a tightening ring on land, the antelope makes a do-or-die decision, charging straight into the water to neutralize the pack's coordinated tactics. There, it plants its long legs firmly beneath the surface, turning the water into a defensive trench, while the dogs can only pace helplessly along the shore. It's a masterclass in strategy, a powerful reminder of how instinct and smart use of terrain can mean the difference between life and death against some of the most relentless predators in the wild. Standing on the razor's edge between life and death, it doesn't just defend, it's ready to lower its sharp horns and drive back any predator bold enough to charge. This is a breathless battle of strategy where the pack's relentless persistence collides with the prey animal's instinctive, intelligent use of terrain to fight for survival. Under the scorching heat of the open savanna, a waterbuck summons every last ounce of strength in a stunning bid for survival, plunging into the water and attempting to drown its pursuer. In a moment of sheer desperation, it turns its massive friend into a weapon, using the water itself to strike back against the highly skilled pack of wild dogs. It's a dramatic reversal where the raw instinct to survive forces the prey to become the aggressor in a final defiant fight for its last chance at life. Crocodiles may be feared as ruthless killers with bone-crushing bites, but they are often forced to think twice when facing the sharp intelligence of African wild dogs. In a direct confrontation, raw brute force is challenged by lightning-fast speed and guerrilla-style tactics from these elite operatives of the savanna. This is a dramatic showdown between armored power beneath the water and coordinated pack intelligence on land. The opening scene delivers a heart-stopping confrontation between nature's brutality and unbreakable teamwork. When one member of the African wild dog pack is suddenly seized by a massive crocodile and dragged beneath the water, the pack does not flee. Instead, they immediately rush back surrounding the riverbank. Barking relentlessly, sprinting along the shoreline, and probing every possible opening, they harass the aquatic monster in search of a chance to rescue their team. This moment stands as powerful proof of the extraordinary family bond that allows African wild dogs to survive in some of the harshest environments on Earth. A massive crocodile suddenly emerges, snatching the prey right from under the noses of the African wild dog pack. Despite their relentless harassment and furious barking, the overwhelming power of this aquatic monster leaves them helpless as their hard-earned catch is dragged down into the depths of the river. A heart-stopping moment unfolds as a crocodile hidden beneath the water suddenly lunges at a pack of African wild dogs drinking along the riverbank. In a split second, razor-sharp reflexes and incredible agility allow the entire pack to escape the deadly jaws of the smart assassin. It is a dramatic encounter that reveals just how thin the line is between life and death on the savanna. The wild dog pack relies on speed and agility to harass their opponent, while the crocodile depends on its thick armor and bone-crushing bite to maintain its dominance. The wild dog pack closes in repeatedly using harassment tactics to provoke their opponent, while the crocodile remains ominously still, displaying its deadly jaws. It is a nerve-wracking battle of wits between land-based special forces and a waterborne assassin unfolding right at the edge of survival. These falls are not merely accidents. They stand as powerful reminders of nature's harsh reality and the physical limits even the most formidable predators can. The honey badger is the savanna's ultimate daredevil, armed with near impenetrable skin and a ferocious fighting spirit. Even when surrounded by a wild dog pack, this lone warrior stands its ground with savage aggression. An amusing yet fascinating encounter unfolds between an African wild dog pack and the fearless honey badger. Despite being outnumbered, the tiny warrior snarls relentlessly, forcing the dogs to withdraw in stunned disbelief. The wild dog pack ultimately yields to the honey badger's sheer stubbornness. Even while surrounded, the badger fights back with relentless aggression, forcing the dogs to retreat. Under the scorching savanna sun, a wild dog pack lays siege, but is forced to concede. Fueled by raw aggression and zero fear, the honey badger compels the pack to retreat in frustration. The wild dog pack is left completely outmatched by the honey badger's ferocity and resolve. Despite being outnumbered, the badger snarls non-stop and launches defiant counterattacks. Often compared to armored tanks, rhinos are silent giants whose sheer power feels immovable on the savanna. They are not traditional prey, yet at times they still find themselves in the crosshairs of wild dogs, whether the pack is testing its limits or defending its territory. This confrontation is a study in extremes. On one side, thick armor-like skin and a razor-sharp horn. On the other, speed, agility, and relentless encirclement tactics. Can the rhino's raw force overpower the endurance of the pack? Let's watch and find out. In a tense encounter, a pack of wild dogs inadvertently draws the attention of a rhino. Though they have no intention of hunting the massive giant, their mere presence triggers the rhino's fierce territorial instincts. With powerful charges and a razor-sharp horn aimed forward, the rhino forces the cunning pack to keep a safe distance, delivering an intimidating display of raw power and authority. At a watering hole in South Africa's Greater Kruger National Park, a lone black rhino puts on a commanding display of dominance, repeatedly charging at a large pack of wild dogs to defend its territory. Though the dogs are elite predators in their own right, they stand no ground against the sheer aggression and deadly horn of this massive giant, ultimately scattering in retreat. In the wilds of South Africa, a rare confrontation erupts when a pack of wild dogs approaches a young rhino calf. Instantly, the white rhino mother transforms into the calf remains remarkably calm. It is a powerful testament to the raw, unshakable force of maternal instinct. Lions stand as the proud kings of the savanna, armed with overwhelming muscle power and a roar that strikes fear into every creature nearby. Living in highly disciplined prides, they are apex predators capable of bringing down massive prey with explosive precision. Yet despite their absolute dominance, even the king can be visibly irritated by the bold and relentless harassment of the cunning African wild dog pack. As the wild dog pack relentlessly surrounds and attacks a pregnant hyena, a lion suddenly appears and drives them away. This act is not an act of mercy, but a clear display of dominance from the true ruler of the savanna, unintentionally sparing the weaker animal from an imminent death. The lion takes direct action to punish the wild dog pack by attacking a pup. This is not simple predation, but a brutal act of retaliation aimed at eliminating a future rival. It is a harsh reminder of the unforgiving laws of survival, where the dominant ruler is willing to destroy the enemy's offspring to protect its absolute reign. A nerve-wracking confrontation unfolds as the wild dog pack boldly surrounds a male lion, using their numbers to provoke him. Despite being encircled by these swift and relentless special forces, the lion holds his ground with regal authority, unleashing thunderous swipes to warn and intimidate his challengers. Despite holding an overwhelming advantage in raw strength, the lion still struggles against the speed and intelligent tactics of the wild dogs. The rhinoceros is the armored tank of the savanna, built like a fortress and armed with a razor-sharp horn that radiates raw power, despite its overwhelming strength. Even this giant occasionally draws the attention of a cunning pack of African wild dogs. In these rare encounters, the pack relies on harassment tactics, circling relentlessly, probing for any sign of weakness. Yet a single thunderous charge or a forceful snort from the rhino is often enough to send the smaller predators scattering. The clash is a striking contrast brute. Muscular dominance on one side, calculated agility and opportunism on the other. The footage captures a dramatic reversal of roles when the cunning leopard decides to become the hunter instead of the one hiding. Taking advantage of a moment when the wild dogs are busy enjoying their late lunch, the leopard bursts out to completely off guard by the sudden the wild dog scatters. Abandoning the prey just hunted, they rush after the leopard. The clever predator has already leapt up into the safety of a tall tree. By the aggressive pack of wild dogs barking loudly to intimidate it. The leopard quickly relies on its natural climbing ability to escape. In a split second, it bursts upward and races straight to the top of a towering tree, leaving the large group of frustrated opponents leaping helplessly below. With the fierce circle of wild dogs closing in, the leopard doesn't choose to fight to the death, but instead displays its masterful escape skills. With one powerful surge of its body, it shoots straight up the vertical trunk of a tree, leaving behind the desperate barking and the pack's helpless leaps below. Of the Okavango, a leopard has just taken down its prey when it suddenly finds itself facing a pack of aggressive wild dogs. Instead of backing off before the lone predator's power, the dogs move in with perfect coordination, using sharp, piercing barks and constant snapping bites to surround and overwhelm their rival. Realizing the numbers are heavily against it, the leopard has no choice but to abandon the fresh kill and retreat up a nearby tree. From high above, it can only watch helplessly as the wild dogs tear into the stolen. Wildebeest are endurance athletes of the plains, built with powerful muscles and sharp curved horns, ready to crush obstacles along their great migrations. They rely on sheer numbers and bone-shaking kicks to defend themselves in a savanna filled with danger. Yet even this living wall of flesh begins to tremble when the striped shadows of African wild dogs appear, launching a patient siege, searching relentlessly for even the smallest opening to bring their prey down. In a breathless chase, the wild dog pack works in flawless coordination to bring down a massive wildebeest. Using speed and relentless endurance, they strike again and again at vulnerable points, driving the exhausted animal to collapse powerless to fight back. Traffic grinds to a halt as a fierce battle erupts between a pack of wild dogs and a group of hyenas right in the middle of the roadway. Both sides charge into a violent clash over territory and prey, creating a scene of pure chaos as growls and barking echo across the area. The chase erupts in dramatic fashion as the pack spreads into formation, pressing in again and again to grind down the prey's stamina over long distances. Despite the wildebeest's overwhelming size and strength, it cannot break free from the layered encirclement that steadily closes in around it. Within the dense ring of attackers, the wildebeest stands firm, like a living fortress, wielding its sharp horns and powerful rear kicks to repel every assault. Despite repeated attempts to probe for weakness and strike from the edges, the wild dogs find themselves unable to breach the solid defenses of the towering giant. African elephants are the wise giants of the wild, possessing remarkable intelligence and tightly bonded family structures. Weighing up to 6 tons and armed with powerful tusks, they stand as symbols of immense strength, capable of reshaping the very landscape of the savanna. Yet even these living fortresses are not entirely free from danger. In rare confrontations, cunning packs of African wild dogs may attempt harassment tactics targeting vulnerable calves. In response, the elephant herd swiftly forms a defensive wall, using their massive bodies as an unbreakable shield to drive back the small but relentless predators. At the Savuti waterhole in Botswana, a fascinating standoff unfolds as a solitary giant comes face to face with a relentless pack of painted wolves. Driven by a territorial instinct over the precious water source, the elephant repeatedly bellows and launches mock charges in an effort to intimidate the intruders. Yet, rather than retreat in fear, the wild dogs display striking confidence. Using their agility to their advantage, they swiftly dodge and weave, circling the elephant's legs in what appears almost like a high-speed game. This encounter is not one of lethal force, but rather a battle of wits, a clash between commanding strength and cunning agility, where in the end, the elephant begrudgingly accepts the presence of his small, yet remarkably bold neighbor. The entire elephant herd forms a unified front to protect its youngest members. Unlike the solitary nature of a bull elephant, the adult females stand shoulder to shoulder, trumpeting in warning and surging forward together like an unbreakable wall of living force. Faced with overwhelming power and thunderous roars that seem to shake the ground itself, the pack of wild dogs quickly recognizes the danger and is forced to retreat. At the waterhole, the elephant wields his trunk and unleashes forceful mock charges to assert dominance, determined to keep exclusive control over the vital water source. Yet the wild dogs remain unfazed. They scatter strategically, using their speed to circle and taunt the towering giant. This confrontation becomes a striking intersection of raw power and cunning agility, revealing the tense boundary that exists between species in the relentless struggle for survival resources. At the Bush House waterhole, a massive bull elephant erupts in fury at the sight of a pack of wild dogs occupying his space. This is no routine warning. The enraged giant charges head-on at full speed, trumpeting thunderously and slamming his trunk against the water in a powerful display of dominance. Confronted with the overwhelming force of the furious behemoth, even the swift and agile wild dogs have no choice but to scatter quickly to avoid being crushed. herd of elephants steps in to rescue a hippopotamus that has been surrounded by a pack of wild dogs. As the predators press their relentless attack, the commanding arrival of the elephants, marked by thunderous trumpets and forceful charges, sends the wild dogs into a sudden panic, driving them to retreat in haste. Across the vast grasslands, antelopes appear like proud whirlwinds, capable of explosive bursts of speed to escape the jaws of death. Yet even this remarkable advantage becomes fragile against the pragmatic and relentless hunting style of African wild dogs. Rather than relying on a single lightning-fast strike, the pack turns the chase into a brutal endurance trial, pursuing their target without mercy until it is completely exhausted. It is a ruthless contest between the elegance of swift-pounding hooves and the persistent, coordinated strategy of predators that simply do not tire. A pack of wild dogs corners an antelope at the very edge of a cliff. Caught on the razor's edge between life and death, the prey faces an impossible choice: confront the bloodthirsty jaws closing in, or risk a desperate leap into the sheer abyss below. Working in seamless coordination, the pack of wild dogs brings down its target with chilling speed and precision. Rather than delivering a suffocating throat bite, like the big cats, they immediately begin tearing into their prey, wasting no time in order to consume their kill before rival predators arrive on the scene. Along the riverbank, a pack of wild dogs surrounds and brings down a helpless impala. With superior speed and flawless coordination, they swiftly overpower and dispatch their target, acting in accordance with the unforgiving laws of survival that govern the wild. In a suffocating sea, a pack of wild dogs sets its sights on a powerful sable antelope. Despite their numbers and relentless encirclement tactics, the dogs hesitate in the face of the antelope's steely resolve and its long, formidable horns. The encounter becomes a grueling test of courage and skill, a clash between cunning predators and a proud warrior of the savanna that refuses to yield. The leopard, a solitary phantom of the savanna, embodies refined precision and raw power, armed with elite hunting skills and the ability to vanish seamlessly into the shadows. Yet even this lone assassin must exercise caution when confronted by the iron discipline of an African wild dog pack, where individual brilliance is challenged by ruthless, coordinated pack tactics. The leopard, often harassed and driven off by wild dogs, now takes the initiative and goes on the hunt. Exploiting the moment when the pack lies in deep sleep after a long, exhausting day, it approaches silently, relying on flawless stealth. Beneath the tree, the wild dog pack attempts to steal the leopard family's hard-earned meal. Using their numerical advantage, the aggressive pack surrounds the scene and applies constant pressure, determined to force the mother leopard to abandon her prey. A heart-pounding escape unfolds as the leopard is caught in the deadly encirclement of a wild dog pack. Overwhelmed by their aggressive, coordinated tactics, the leopard is forced to sprint into the dense brush by the narrowest of margins, evading lethal bites in a desperate bid for survival. Antelopes. The track athletes of the savanna are built with slender legs and blistering speed, allowing them to evade most lightning-fast ambushes by predators. Yet against the relentless persistence of African wild dogs, speed alone is never enough, turning the chase into a deadly marathon of endurance. The wild dog pack brings down its prey with terrifying speed. Unlike big cats that rely on a suffocating bite, wild dogs tear the prey apart while it is still alive to minimize feeding time. Along the riverbank, a wild dog pack chases down and brings down an impala. With speed and precise coordination, the dogs quickly overwhelm their target, finishing the kill in nature's most instinctive way. A dramatic siege unfolds as a wild dog pack targets a massive sable antelope. Despite relentless encirclement, the dogs struggle against the antelope's resilience and its long, razor-sharp horns. A rare and harrowing scene unfolds as an antelope is trapped between two deadly threats. It lashes out to escape a hippopotamus in the water, only to face a wild dog pack waiting on the shore. At Simbavati, a young pack of wild dogs reveals its emerging predatory instincts through a coordinated pursuit of a hare, though not yet fully grown. Their synchronized movements and instinctive teamwork transform the hunt into a dramatic and very real lesson.